Hi, this is Sarah.
And this is Rachel.
And this is The Diaries, a podcast where we rip apart, episode by episode, The Vampire Diaries. Warning, this is a rewatch podcast. Spoilers always come up, and they will be today for specific reasons.
There is so much to say about this episode, referencing other episodes too. This week we're talking about season 2, episode 17, Know Thy Enemy. Or as I like to call it, Isobel Part 2. Isobel comes back. We saw at the end of the last episode. She is back and with a vengeance. She's here to stir the pot.
Yeah, she always does. Isobel and John make such a good pair in that way because they both are just always causing drama. They're always causing problems. But first I want to start off with a little shout out. I'm such a film girly. I love looking at all of like the technical aspects of a show. Vampire Diaries doesn't always allow me that opportunity.
Yes.
But this is one where I really wanted to call out. I wanted to give a shout out to the director, Wendy Stanzler, I believe is her name. And I just thought this episode had like a lot of interest to it. Like there was a lot of interesting composition to the frames. Yeah. She really I think challenged the way that they format a lot of the scenes. It's a very normal thing in like shows like this to do, just like a two shot of like a close up of a person's face and a close up of another person's face. That's like how these shows operates. And Vampire Diaries does it all the time. Like if you ever look for it, that's like what a scene is going to be, is a close up of this person, then a close up of that person, and then back and forth until the scene's over. And they do that, of course, in this episode, but I think they do it in places where it works, like the dramatic Matt and Caroline scene towards the end. That's very emotional, but it's also like interesting because Matt is standing and Caroline is sitting. There's like a power dynamic shift, and there was lots of camera movement and just interesting things. Of course, some scenes with Elena and Katherine in the shot together, which is so technically difficult.
Yeah, I know. I was actually thinking there are a lot of really good shots. And of course, the Elena and Katherine in the same scene. Yeah. It looked so good and it aged so well. Yeah, I'm glad they didn't try anything like too creative. Like I don't know. It's like they were creative in how they did it, but not in a way that would age badly.
Yes. And this is just such a standout to me so far in what we've watched, where it's like it just looked really good. Like she definitely pushed the direction of the episode past like the norm that they had created. She also, this is the first one she directed for Vampire Diaries. She also did 304, 311, and 406. So interesting. Curious to see some more. And the next one is another great director that I'll bring up at the start of it. So maybe this will become a regular segment. Who knows?
Who directed this episode?
I wanted to talk about it because I was just like, hats off. It was a good one. It
was. I'm not even like a big film girly, but I noticed I had many notes. Like I was like, this is a really good shot. Like this is so unique. Yeah. Like we've never seen anything like this.
I know. I love when they actually take the time to really craft like a beautiful like scene, and they don't always. And again, it's not a Vampire Diaries problem. That is just a network television thing of like you're doing things as quick and fast and cheap as you possibly can, and that means 2 close-ups. That's what you get. So I'm glad they didn't do that here. But jumping right into it, we start off, of course, right where we left off at the Gilbert house, exactly where we left off, with Isobel in the door, Jenna shocked, having answered the door, and Elena walking into the room, realizing who is there, and it's Isobel. And Isobel, of course, hits them with the, "Hello, Elena, it's so nice to see you again." Immediately revealing to Jenna that Elena's been lying to her this whole time, and that she knows that, not only is Isobel, like, alive, but that Elena has talked to her, has communicated with her. Obviously such a huge betrayal. And Isobel goes on to say that she really needs to talk to Elena. She asks to be invited in. Elena, like, obviously jumps immediately in front of Jenna and is like, absolutely not, don't invite her in, and like slams the door in her face. Jenna, of course, is shocked and betrayed, devastated, justifiably so. She asks if John and Alaric knew like the whole time. And, they both start crying. Elena even is crying over this. And Jenna just, like, runs up to her room and slams the door and, like, falls to the ground crying. Yeah. Such a dramatic start. And it's so hard because I was debating for a while how I felt about this in terms of, obviously, the first, like, feeling is, like, so devastated.
Very,
you knew this was going to happen. Like,
how in world they didn't know this was going to happen. Like, we all knew. But how in the world they didn't, like, anticipate this? I don't know.
It's crazy. But then another part of me was like, I'm kind of shocked almost at how dramatic Jenna is about it, because I feel like I would be like, let's talk, I need some answers. But then I was like, I guess she probably doesn't realize that like there's even like some logical explanation to this, because it's not like she knows that Isobel like faked her death. All she knows is Alaric said Isobel is dead. So as far as she knows, people are just lying to her for no reason, which is definitely different.
Yeah, I think that's part of it, because I thought about this too. I was like, that's like a pretty dramatic kind of like almost teen reaction to run upstairs, slam your bedroom door.
Yeah.
I was like, I think she just, I think it's just so overwhelming that, it seems like it's for no reason. I don't know.
Yeah. And it did make me think, too. I was like, Jenna is young. She is early 20s. So I was like...
That's true. That is true.
I was like, that kind of, to me, also reminded me that of like, oh, this isn't somebody's like 40-year-old mother. Like, this is their 20-year-old aunt. Which kind of warrants, I think, a different reaction, too. Where it's like, her and Elena are maybe too friendly. Like, they're friends.
I think so, too. Yeah.
So I think that also, like, intensifies the betrayal there.
I think so.
Interesting start. We'll pick up the next morning. And first we're going to start off at the Salvatore house where Stefan and Damon are debriefing on the fact that Isobel just randomly showed up. And Stefan is like headed out the door to obviously go to Elena's to see what's going on. When Katherine stops them and she says like, you shouldn't tell Isobel that I'm here. Like, I don't want her and John to know.
Yeah, which that doesn't make any sense to me because it makes no sense. John knows that she's out of the tomb because he knows they staked or daggered Alaric.
Yeah.
Isobel, I mean, maybe she doesn't know at this point. I don't know. But, like, first of all, she'd probably know through John.
Yeah.
But also, Katherine and Isobel are girls. Like, they're girly. Like, I don't get it.
And also, she said there was the whole deal where if she left town, then he would kill Stefan. So
yes, that's what I thought, too.
I was like, I literally, like, wrote down, I was like, I honestly never know what Katherine's thought process is on anything. I can't follow them. I don't know if she's being honest. I don't know if she's trying to do some reverse psychology. Like, who knows? Does Katherine know? Not sure, but I think she does.
Yeah, I don't know. That was my one thought. I was like, maybe it's some sort of reverse psychology. Like, she does want them to tell them.
Which at that point, just tell them yourself.
Clue.
I don't know.
I don't
I was like, Katherine, who knows?
No one knows. Yeah, but anyway. Yeah, so, like, Damon points out pretty much the same thing. He's like, but you're in cahoots with them. And Katherine just says, you know, she's reconsidering her alliance. As we know, she's an opportunist. She goes into this whole thing. She's like, well, you basically saying you guys have the moonstone. Yeah. Maybe it's time to join your team.
Me on team you.
Yeah, exactly. And Stefan, of course, is like questioning her on this. He doesn't want to fully believe it. And Katherine just says, you know, we all want Klaus dead. We have the same goals. And also, you know, if you want the Elena swap to keep working, then you shouldn't tell anyone. Like, the less people who know she's around, the better. Which that I agree with. But I feel like that's not her rationale for not telling John and Isobel.
No, it's definitely not. I think, I don't know what her rationale is. I don't know if she has one.
No, who knows with her. But yeah, so she just says that. And Stefan is just like done with this conversation. He just kind of is like, I'm on my way out. You guys call Alaric and let him know Isobel just like ruined his whole life, basically.
Yeah.
So Stefan goes on his merry way. And then we see they must have called Alaric, and we go to the Gilbert house where Alaric shows up. Elena gets the door, lets him in, and wants to know like what Elena told Jenna. And Elena tells Alaric, I didn't tell her anything. She won't speak to me. And right as they're talking about that, Jenna actually comes downstairs. And of course, like, Alaric is trying to talk to her. Elena is trying to talk to her, but moral of the story, she's not having it. Like,
yeah, she's grabbing her stuff. She's like leaving.
Yeah, exactly. She's putting on her coat. She's like just saying she's going to campus to write her thesis.
Imagine having to do a thesis in the middle of all of this. I was like, if I had been working on my thesis during
and you find out your boyfriend's wife is really alive. She has no clue what
how far this goes. She's got no clue.
Yeah. So anyway, she's going to try to put this out of her mind and go write her thesis.
Yeah.
Try to, not think about it. And they Elena and Alaric keep trying to talk to Jenna. And Jenna just tells Elena, I don't want to hear your lies. Like, go to this, like, historical society luncheon and accept some donation to your mom's foundation.
Yes.
And then she just leaves. She just, like, closed the door on them before they can really say anything.
It's honestly ridiculous, like, how little Elena and Alaric are trying to tell her anything in this scene. I was like, you're seriously telling me, like, I know Jenna's breezing out, but you're really telling me you couldn't have been more forceful? You couldn't have blockaded the door and been like, I know. We need to sit you down, like, right now. Like, yeah, I get it. She's rushing out. She doesn't want to hear it because of what you guys have done to her. But also, like, you can't yell out like someone's trying to kill Elena and that's not going to stop her in her tracks.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Why don't they just say, like, you're in danger? Yeah. That would make me stop. Like,
yeah. Or someone's trying to kill Elena. Wouldn't you be like, okay, like you've gained 30 seconds.
Me.
Like elaborate and I'll decide if I'm gonna stay. But like they don't try at all. They basically let her leave. I was like,
they do pretty much let her leave. Yeah,
I get it. Like give her freedoms and stuff, but also like she needs to know this stuff at this point. Like come on.
Yeah, I know.
I think they're just avoiding still. They still just don't want to actually tell her anything, is my opinion.
No, I know. That's what I was thinking too. I'm like, if they actually did get a chance to talk to her, I feel like they would have just been like, she's really alive. That's it.
Yeah.
Sorry we lied. Without any of the other context. I don't know.
I think that's what they would have done too. Maybe they would have revealed she's a vampire, but there's no way they would have told her about Klaus and the actual bigger whatever of this. Because they also could have left her a voicemail with any sort of description of any of this to try to like open up the door to like get her to want to know more. But no, they don't do that.
Yeah.
And kind of building off of that, John, of course, comes in the room. You know, it's like he can scent, like when he has a chance to gloat, he's like, I smell an opportunity.
So true.
And just sneaks into the room. And of course is like, oh, just let Jenna go. Like, you know, she's better not being here anyway. It's safer, which is annoying, but is true. He's right. No. Like, it is safer for her to leave, especially if they're not going to actually tell her.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, of course, you know, and then he goes on and he's like, you know, he says, but if you had been honest with her in the first place, which before he can really finish that thought, Alaric punches him in the face.
Thank God.
Thank God. Like, okay. You hate to see someone punch someone, but if it's gonna happen, the fact that John is on the receiving end,
it's Alaric delivering. I just feel like there's something really, makes sense.
It just works. It works well. But yeah, Alaric punches him and then leaves.
But he apologizes. He's like, sorry, Elena.
Yeah, he apologizes to Elena, which is funny. And then Elena turns to John and is like, you know, this is your fault, right? John goes, right. And then Elena just storms upstairs. But is it really John's fault?
I don't think it is.
Like, I don't think so either.
He instigated.
He did instigate it.
He made it as upsetting for Jenna as it possibly could be. Like,
definitely.
She's definitely so extremely upset because he's been riling her emotions for like a week plus.
Yeah.
However, is all of the blame really on John for this?
No.
Was John the one that lied to Jenna?
No. Yeah, for months now.
Yeah.
No. Also, he didn't have any control over Isobel showing up or not. I feel like John really has nothing to do with this.
Yeah, it's not like he was like, Isobel, show up at this exact time because then Jenna will answer the door. And like, no, this was definitely like, Alaric and Elena are not taking enough responsibility here for me.
No, they're not.
I think Alaric is maybe willing to because, like we've talked about, like he sees it as Elena's decision to make. So, like, he's kind of in a hard position.
True.
I think he would have told her the truth already if like the Elena factor wasn't there.
Yeah, I agree. No, I would because he said as much basically.
Yeah, but Elena's taking no. She's like, she's the one that says, John, this is all your fault. It's like, Elena, no, it's not.
No.
It's 90% your fault.
Yeah,
like
it is
5% John's.
Yeah, she had multiple opportunities both over the whole first 2 seasons and especially in the last episode, like we talked about.
Oh my God, the last few episodes have been agonizing with how many opportunities she's had to tell Jenna.
Yeah.
So it's just irritating.
The worst, yeah.
But anyway, moving along. Speaking of telling people and it not going so well.
Oh my God, yeah.
Caroline is like leaving her house and she's on the phone with Stefan and she's saying that she's looking for Matt. Like she's going out looking for him because like after they talked last night, we talked about this in the last one. We were like, what happens? They like talk and they get in that whole fight and he's all freaking out and then it just cuts away. She said that like her mom got home right when that happened and Matt obviously just like left. There was no way she could stop him in front of her mom. And so she can't find him. She keeps leaving voicemails. Yeah. He's not responding. And Stefan's like, you have to do anything you can to get him back. Like you have to do anything, even if that means like compelling him as soon as you find him because this is like really bad.
Yeah.
And Caroline says, like, he's got a job catering at the Lockwoods today, so I'm going to go there to try to find him. Mm-hmm. And they hang up. Caroline then gets her little product placement moment, of course.
God.
Call Matt.
Yeah. Yeah, just like back like when this technology was new, when you thought you had to like scream. Yeah. She's like, call. You're going to have to like turn the volume down on this segment. But yeah, call Matt.
I know. I was like, I miss the simple days when this was the most newfangled technology we had. Now it's all just like AI and taking people's rights away. And we used to think voice command was so exciting. Yeah.
Return to tradition. Yeah. Just screaming into your car speakerphone.
Yeah. So good. But yeah, so she tries to call Matt again via car. He obviously doesn't answer. And so then you know, that's the end of that little scene. Then we get to Stefan, where he has arrived at the Gilbert house as he was like taking the last end of that call, and Elena's sitting there, and she says like, this is a disaster between Jenna and Isobel and now Matt, like this is awful.
Yeah. That's all I'll say.
Honesty, question mark.
Yeah.
Then John walks into the room and he says, you know, Elena, can you come downstairs? I need to talk to you. And he says, Stefan, you too. And they kind of like say no for a second, but obviously he's like, it's important. And they do come downstairs. And what do they find when they get downstairs?
Little snake.
Snake. John has invited Isobel into the house and she's just standing in the kitchen.
What is he thinking? Like, what?
It's genuinely like so crazy and such a betrayal. And Elena like says this much. She turns around and is like, you invited her in? Like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah, this especially makes no sense, like, with the context of the conversation they have, which I'll get to. I'll just start explaining. But, you know, John rationalizes inviting her in because Isobel, quote unquote, has information about Klaus. She doesn't.
Yeah, she gives
Spoiler,
nothing.
She doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So whatever. They all go into the kitchen or like the little dining area next to the kitchen. And, you know, Isobel like starts spinning her story. She says she was trying to find Klaus because that was their best chance at keeping Elena alive. What? Like, to find, she says, like,
how does finding, I guess, stopping Klaus, if they find him then they can stop him? I don't know.
Clearly they just have no, I mean, the whole moral of all of the story is like, no one had any clue how big of a threat Klaus was going to be.
Yeah, they really had no clue.
Like, they just had no clue. And yeah, like, she says, you know, finding Klaus before he found you was our best chance of keeping Elena alive. Like we said in a previous episode, it's never clear what that actual plan was. Makes no sense, sure. And Stefan asks Isobel if she ever found Klaus, and she says no.
So yeah, what info do you have?
So first of all, she has no information on Klaus. Sure. But anyway, she goes on to explain she found someone like in his... Oh no, that's in the later conversation. She just says here that there's a rumor flying around that the doppelganger exists.
Yeah. A rumor, girl. We already knew that.
Girl,
like Elena had emailed like a whole
emailed someone.
She a whole crew the doppelganger exists. So like it's not surprising that that's floating around.
Yeah, it's not really surprising, but everyone seems to be kind of surprised by this.
Except Elena, who's like, I don't believe any of this. She's literally like, you don't care about me, so like, why should I listen to any of this?
I mean, yeah, she has a good point, but you know, John jumps in, of course, for Isobel, and is like, Isobel's been helping all along. You know, the thing we did with the tomb vampires, that was because any one of them could have basically sold you out to Klaus. So, you know, we had to, of course, kill them. And Elena points out, like, and you almost killed Stefan and Damon in the process. Sure. But, yeah, she says, you know, John is giving this tomb vampire explanation, which I guess, like, could be true. But I mean, the real reason I think was Isobel was working with Katherine, and Katherine didn't want word about her existence to get out.
Yes, I don't know. Isobel is such a convoluted, hard to understand character. Yeah. And more specifically, like this scene, especially this whole episode, on a rewatch. Because of course, like, I'll already jump to the conclusion of this episode because it's irrelevant to talk about the scenes without acknowledging that, like, Isobel is being compelled by Klaus from the get-go of this episode. Yeah. And so, like, you know, we have to acknowledge that right off the bat of, like, what is, like, the whole scene is just, like, changed when you look at it from that perspective of, like, Isobel is fully under Klaus's control in this scene. So, of course, that's why she says she doesn't find him and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, of course.
But, yeah, it's, like, it's just weird of, like, what are the goals? Like, what's going on? Like, it's so unclear of, like, what are her intentions? Who is she working with? Whose side is she on? We never know.
We never really know.
She's like Klaus, or she's like Katherine, but, like, extreme.
Yeah, exactly. And I do think, like, maybe this is, like, getting ahead of myself, but I think, yeah, her reason for ever even finding Klaus is what she tells Katherine in a later scene. She was going for Katherine. I don't think she was ever going for Elena. This is my thinking. I think John, like, his justification that he gives about killing the tomb vampires, I believe that was John's intention.
Yes, I think John cares so much about Elena.
He does. No, we see how that arc ends.
Yeah, he's doing all of this for Elena, and he wants to believe that Isobel is.
Exactly. Yeah, he's just like a little delusional when it comes to Isobel.
A little.
Oh, very.
Invited her in the house.
Yeah, so delusional he invited her in.
The man who hates vampires. Like,
yeah, he's an idiot. But that's really
that's a different story. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I think John really believes this, but Isobel, she doesn't really say much. She just pretty much changes the topic after John says that about the tomb vampires.
Yeah.
And she says, you know, she has a safe house with the deed in Elena's name, so no vampires can get in, not even her. Which, this is what I was getting at earlier. Why did John invite her in if they then needed a safe house that Isobel can't get into?
Yeah.
Her house was that until you just invited her in.
Yeah.
I don't know. It makes no sense. This whole scene, everything about Isobel is so
it makes no
whatever.
sense. Which, you know, obviously the thing with the safe house is, again, Isobel, everything she's saying is Klaus. So, like, obviously the safe house doesn't exist. She would have just taken him right to him anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just doesn't. It's so weird how John, like, believes and is just buying into all of this, which he explains in a later scene. So, like, that's going to be a whole longer topic.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's just, it's so weird to rewatch the scene. I genuinely think, like, this episode is one you can't just watch once. Like, it really would make, like, you'd lose so much by only watching it one time ever. Like, you have to rewatch it to be like, wow.
Definitely.
So many games at play here.
Yeah, well, because the reveal that Isobel is compelled doesn't come until the end.
Yeah, the very, very end.
Yeah, so to really have any context for these scenes, you have to at least watch it twice.
Yeah.
And I barely understand it after watching it like 100 times.
I know, I was going to say, I've watched it so many times and I'm still like, who knows?
I'm like, I have no clue. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's pretty much that. And then Elena just says, you know, if Isobel really wants to help, she can get the hell out of her house.
Yeah, so, screw her.
Yeah, good little moment for Elena. I'm glad she's kind of putting John and Isobel in their place a little bit.
Yeah, as they deserve.
Yeah, rightfully. Anyway, meanwhile, getting up to, like, actually trying to do something helpful and useful, Damon is, like, with Bonnie and Jeremy, and we see they, like, approach a doorway. Damon, like, sticks his hand in to see if there's any, you know, like,
living person there.
Yeah, living person there that would prevent him from being, or that would require him to be invited in. And there isn't. He easily gets in.
Yeah, he's like, all dead.
Everyone's dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're at the Martin apartment, and Bonnie is there. She's saying that they should pack up all of the grimoires. And
which I love that she's like, we need to save all of this. Like, it took them so long to collect.
Yes.
Also, like, Damon immediately agrees because it's like, of course, like, this is such knowledge and access.
So much good information.
Bonnie gets her own grimoire library now. Like, this is amazing.
Yeah, there are so many books, which I also just was thinking, I love this apartment. Sad to let it go.
I know, I do like this apartment. But also, I wonder, like, this probably does attribute to, like, Bonnie's, like, very quick rise with magic after this point.
That's true.
She now has, like, everything she could possibly need. She has, like, Jonas's life work of, like, collecting these grimoires. She has all of it now.
Yeah, that's true. This was huge for her.
Yeah. Besides what happens later, but we'll get into that.
That too. Yeah, those two things together, though.
Yeah. It's quick ascension for Bonnie.
Yeah. But...
bad ascension. So Luca's dead body obviously is laying in the middle of the room, charred to death. Ugh. And Damon is like joking about how they should just get another match and like cremate him.
Sad.
And Bonnie's like, don't be disrespectful, like not to him. And she kind of looks down at Luca very like somberly. And I like that they give her this, you know, she was so sassy to him. She kind of treated him pretty poorly last like
not
couple.
Great. Yeah, not great.
So it's I like that they're sort of acknowledging this of like Luca ultimately did not deserve any of this.
No,
he was just going along with his dad for his sister. Like it's just a sad story. So they're looking around, and specifically Bonnie says they're looking for the spell to get that witch power when they find like the burial ground. And Damon acknowledges that by saying, like, you know, I'll put that on the to-do list, harness ancient dead witch power, which I love that line. But it makes Bonnie realize, like, wait a second, harness it. Like, that means you already know where the witches were burned. And, you know, he kind of gives, like, a little smirk. So, of course, now they know, like, she's going to get this spell. Mm-hmm. They're going to go harness the magic. And Bonnie stands in front of the wall of grimoires, and she just, like, holds out her hands and does a spell. And it sends all the books flying off the shelf, and one, like, perfectly lands on top, open to the spell. I was like, I wish I had that. Do you know how many times I'm in my bookshelf and I'm, like, looking for some specific... I'm like, what book had this one scene where this thing... I'm like, this would be... the best spell for me.
That would be so useful, yeah.
But then I guess all your books are on the floor, so that's maybe the worst part of it.
Use magic to put them back.
Yeah, perfect. So they've got what they went there for. Then, of course, we see the Isobel classic, the staple. At the nicest foreclosure in town, Isobel and her male minion enter the house.
Yeah, they kept the gay cowboy from season 1. I'm pretty sure it's the same person.
It's definitely the same one. Yeah. She lost her, what was it, like the French, I don't know what
yeah, she must have Sherry. Lost, yeah, Sherry.
Yeah, but she's got the guy. And so they come in, and she takes like a bottle of wine, quote unquote, from the bag, and Katherine is already waiting inside, and they have like a little moment where, like, you know, she attacks her and she doesn't know who it is, and they have a little standoff, but then it's like, oh, it's Katherine. They smile and they hug, clearly besties. And Isobel reveals to Katherine that, like you said earlier, she's been working with Klaus to make a deal for Katherine.
Yeah.
Which, again, and on a rewatch with the context of the end of the episode, we know, like, that didn't happen.
That didn't happen, but I do think that was Isabel's original plan. That's kind of where I've ended up.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm like, I think she could have been trying to do, well, I don't know. I don't know what she was doing. But either way, I'm like, she's saying this with the context that, no, she didn't. She literally has sold Katherine over to Klaus as well as everyone else. But whatever her intention was, we don't know. So, you know, Katherine's like all happy about that. They open up the bottle of wine, and Isobel says that it's a wine cellar that she knew in France. She says, a Vinter I knew in Avion or something like that. Yeah. And Katherine, like, licks it and says, he's tasty. Yeah. I did not realize the context of that for, like, a dozen watches of this episode. I don't know why. I just always was like, just a good wine.
Yeah, it's just, like, such a subtle little point.
Yeah, it went over my head. I was just like, a nice bottle of wine. Lovely. Yep. No, she's so classy. She's filled a bottle of wine with blood of a French wine cellar. I was like, love her.
It's pretty funny.
You're going so hard into the bit for that point. I love that. So they sit down to drink their wine and blood. And Isobel says that she went over to the Gilbert house, that night, because she heard John heard that Rick was dating Auntie Vanilla. That was such a funny thing to say. She says, I got jealous.
Jenna didn't deserve that, but that's pretty funny.
Yeah, she did not deserve that, but it is funny. Auntie Vanilla, so she got jealous.
Yeah.
And Katherine comments that, like, Isobel has John wrapped around her finger to invite her into the house, which we were all thinking that. Yeah. What the heck, John? And so, Isobel says that John has been, you know, keeping her informed on everything, that everything John knows, Isobel knows. And, you know, she got in with Klaus through one of his witches. You know, she found a witch that's in his inner circle. And so that's how she's, like, trying to get in with Klaus. And so he wants her to bring the moonstone and the doppelgänger. That's, like, the deal that she's made for Katherine is, like, get the moonstone, get the doppelgänger, and Katherine can have her freedom. And she's like, but Katherine, like, would you be willing to do that? You'd be, like, selling out your Salvatore boys again. Yeah. And Katherine says, like, they're floundering. Like, their witch has lost her powers. They've used the only weapon that they had on Elijah. If I stick with them, I'm as good as dead.
Yeah.
So clearly she's intending to betray them. And Isobel has claimed to set up this deal for Katherine if she gets the moonstone and the doppelganger. That will launch us into what's going to happen later in the episode.
Yes.
But for now, we go back to the Salvatore house with Elena, Stefan, and Damon in the library talking about Isobel. And Damon says that Elena should just stay at the Salvatore house so that they can keep an eye on her. And Stefan's like, yeah, the house any vampire can enter. Yeah. Like, no, absolutely not. Anybody could come in. And Damon says, like, well, then we'll just stay at Elena's.
I love that. I love the idea of, like, they're all just in the guest bedrooms.
Yeah. Like. I know. I was like, would they all just be, like, in guest bedrooms? Because Damon's not sleeping on the couch. Like, there's no way. He just takes Jenna's room. I guess Stefan would stay.
Yeah. I guess
Stefan would stay with Elena.
Jenna's gone. She's not going to come back for a little while. So
Damon can get that room. Stefan stays with Elena.
Yeah.
Oh, we're so Jeremy's down the hall. Yeah, we're all good.
Yeah.
So, yes. So they're joking about that. Stefan makes a face at that, which I thought was so funny too.
Yeah.
Like, just shut up. Like, you're not helping.
Yeah, we're not doing this.
Their usual brother vibes. And, so they're not sure what they're going to do with that. But Elena's like, well, I've still got to go places. If you guys are going to be my bodyguards, like, someone needs to go with me today to the Lockwood luncheon. And Stefan obviously is like, that would be me. Like,
yeah, of course.
Of course, boyfriend duties. But this also made me wonder, like, how, I don't know, it's crazy how slowly but also quickly we've progressed to Damon just fully being, like, one of Elena's bodyguards. Like,
I thought you were going to say boyfriends.
She basically is.
Like, yeah.
She is, or he is.
Yeah.
Which obviously we were already there a long time ago, like in the last Isobel episode in season 1, episode 20, 21, whichever one that one is. He is, for all intents and purposes, her bodyguard there, but now they're just so comfortable in this rhythm, like that he's joking that he'll stay at Elena's house, like to help protect her. I was like, how does Stefan feel about all of this?
I don't know. I feel like whenever it's been brought up, Stefan is obviously like, he doesn't love it, but I think he's come around a little bit. Like, I feel like we saw in previous episodes he was kind of jealous.
Yes.
But I feel like he's come around because he realizes it's good for Damon to like care about someone. Even if he loves her, like at least he has his humanity on and like he's not killing people right and left. So
yeah, that's interesting.
I think he's come around on it.
I was thinking of it more from the perspective of it's interesting because Elena needs the help. Like Stefan cannot protect her on his own. So like he's like, I'll help her for the sake of protecting Elena at this point. But yeah, I think that's true too. I think it's like a multi-factor thing. But yeah, Stefan's definitely gotten more comfortable with it, for better or for worse.
Definitely.
So she's got Stefan volunteered to go with her later today, and they start to talk about the witch stuff. You know, she starts to say, Damon's saying he can't go because he's got to take Bonnie somewhere.
Right.
And Elena starts to say, like, oh, does that mean you're going to the... And then Damon shushes her. Just as Katherine enters the room, and she says, don't stop on my account. And I love this shot, like I mentioned at the start.
This is the scene.
This is where Elena's sitting on the couch, and Stefan's in the chair next to her, and Katherine comes up, like, right behind her and is saying, you know, like, if we're going to be working together, and yada, yada, yada. And I just appreciate this, like, effort of them putting them all in the same frame, like, whenever possible. Because I feel like they don't do it a ton. Obviously, it takes so much effort to have the same actress in one frame. But yeah, I appreciate that they did that here. It's always nice to, like, really visually see them right next to each other being, like, the exact same person.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that they did it a lot in this episode because... spoiling the end of the episode, they do another swap, like the two swap. And yeah, I always feel like it is really interesting to see them together but not trying to act as each other, and then see when they do the switch. I feel like it just adds like such a little bit more, like it just adds more. Yeah,
it does. I think it does too. But yes, so Katherine is questioning about their plan. She's asking, like, where the moonstone is. Do they even have it? Because obviously Elijah had it last she knew.
Yep.
And Damon confirms, like, they do have it. It's in a safe spot. And, you know, Katherine is like, fine, and leaves. Yeah. And, yeah, I love Damon gives, like, a little snarky smile towards, like, Elena and Stefan as Katherine leaves, kind of like, we've got her. Like,
we got her, yeah.
And Elena's kind of smiling, too. I was like, I know I'm a delusional Elena shipper.
I know, same.
But I was like, their vibes are just kind of similar, even when she's a human. Like, they both have this snarkiness that Stefan has in a different way. But, like, Stefan kind of doesn't really react to Katherine in this scene, whereas the two of them are both like, this girl.
Well, I think Damon and Elena are both very much on the same page with their feelings toward Katherine. They're both we hate her. Like, she's the worst. Like, why is she even around? Where Stefan, I feel like, is just kind of like neutral toward her. He's like,
which is
whatever.
So weird. He has just as much reason to hate her, but I don't know.
I think he's just made his peace with it.
Yeah, and speaks to the fact that Elena and Damon, like, refuse to.
Yeah, they are never going to stop hating her.
Yeah, definitely the same there. From there, we'll cut to the luncheon.
Yep, where Carol and Liz, of course, are there. Gotta have our mayor and our town sheriff.
Yeah, you need that at historical society meetings for some reason.
Yeah, so they're just talking about the fire at the grill last night and how they think it has to do with vampires because there's no body, but there was blood.
Yeah.
Whatever. Just filler conversation.
Matt's blood.
Yeah, Matt's blood, we know, but they don't know that.
Yeah.
And Caroline interrupts them and asks them if they've seen Matt. And Carol says no, but if you do, ask if he's seen Tyler. And they just kind of talk about how, like...
yeah, no one's heard
from him. Who cares?
But although one thing I did like in this conversation, actually the Liz Carol one, was they were saying, like, we couldn't figure out how the fire started. Because it was a magically created fire. I was like... it's kind of funny.
That is pretty funny.
They're probably like, there's no, like, oil. There's no kerosene. Celery, there's no anything. Like, how did the bar just catch on fire?
Yeah. That's pretty funny. I never thought about that.
But anyway, so they're like, we've never heard from Tyler. We can't find Matt.
Just going on about that, when Stefan and Elena arrive, and Caroline goes over to them to see if they've seen Matt. And they both say they haven't, but Caroline goes on her whole thing. She's like, this wasn't supposed to happen. He was supposed to be okay with it because we're in love. Okay, Caroline.
I
delusional.
feel bad for her, though.
I do, but delusional.
It is delusional. It is absolutely delusional.
And Elena, it just kind of ends with Elena saying that Elena and Stefan will help Caroline look for Matt after Elena accepts the award.
Yeah.
And Caroline just kind of leaves to keep, I don't know.
Yeah, she's not going to wait.
She's just going to drive around town looking for him.
I guess so.
So, anyway, Caroline's off on that, and Damon...
Well, you gotta say the Stefan line, though. So Caroline goes out the door, and Stefan turns to Elena and goes, maybe he'll come around. You did. Producer Shay and I, as we were watching this episode, we burst out laughing. I was like, why did Stefan think that was like a cute little thing to reminisce on when Elena, like, the same thing happened. Elena was like sobbing, so upset, like tried to run away from him. And like, she came around, maybe Matt. Well, I was like, Stefan.
That is true. That's like pretty weird.
The wrong thing to say in this scenario.
Yeah.
She kind of smiles, but she kind of looks down. It's kind of like a, yeah.
Yeah, you're like,
Those are bad memories, but okay.
Yeah. Yes, yeah.
Anyway.
It's true. Anyway.
So on to Damon.
Damon, Bonnie, and Jeremy are walking through the woods trying to find the site where the witches were burned. And Damon is talking about how the founders thought it was poetic to burn Emily, where the other witches were burned. Poetic is, I guess, one way to put that.
Yeah, absolutely crazy is another.
Yeah, terrible, awful. And anyway, he's saying he knows where Emily was killed because he tried to save her. But he quickly clarifies, like, not because he
cared so much about
Emily, but because Emily was the key to getting Katherine out of the tomb.
Yeah.
And, but before he, quote, knew what a nasty little bitch she was.
Yeah, I love that. Like, she was my key to Katherine until I figured out what a nasty little bitch she was.
Yeah.
And Jeremy, like, does, like, a scoff laugh. Yeah. Like, he's like, good joke. I love when they bond.
I know. I do really like Jeremy and Damon's dynamic.
Me too.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, Jeremy sort of laughs at that, and they keep walking, and they eventually come upon, like, a house.
Yeah, an old, like, abandoned house. Looks, you know, like,
spooky.
Falling apart. Yeah, spooky house.
Yeah, and they go inside, and they walk around, and eventually Damon, like, isn't able to move, and eventually, and, you know, he asks Bonnie, like, says, stop doing... Yeah, he says, not asks. He tells her to stop, like, messing with him. Bonnie says it's not her, and then eventually Damon's daylight ring stops working, and there's like a broken out window, and he's in like sun.
A patch of sunlight.
Yeah, and he starts burning, and Bonnie says it's probably the witches that don't like you being here, so maybe you should like go wait outside.
Yeah, because she like closes her eyes and obviously is like kind of connecting with them for a second. She's like, they don't like you very much.
But, you should go wait outside.
So he does.
Yeah. Anyway, Katherine is at the Salvatore house. Yeah. She's just looking around Damon's room, searching for this moonstone.
She's left alone. She got what she wanted. Send the boys on their missions.
Yeah,
she was the house to herself to snoop.
Yep, this is her best case scenario that they had their plans for today. Mm-hmm. And yeah, she's like going through his closet and all of his drawers, like looking for it. And she finds a wad of money at one point and takes it.
Yeah, she slips it in her shirt. I was like, I love her for that.
I know, just kind of a funny little thing. And then she's like checking the fireplace in case it's hidden there, and she can't find it, so she sort of like has a moment where she gives up, and then she realizes she has like ash on her hands from looking in the fireplace, obviously.
Yeah.
And she goes to Damon's bathroom and washes her hands, and there's like a bowl of soaps, and you know, she grabs one of the soaps, washes her hands, and she starts to walk off. But she stops and turns back to the bowl of soaps, and she finds the moonstone.
Of course.
So clever.
Yes.
Like,
but so stupid.
But so stupid. Yeah, I know. That's what I was thinking. I was like, I love this hiding plan because it does really look like a little bar of soap.
Yeah, it's brilliant. But also so dumb. It's right in front of your face. I was thinking about this a lot when I watched it. I was like, it's so great because like if Elijah would never find that there.
Yeah, he's not just going up to Damon's room.
Yeah, and I don't think he would follow that thought process either. Whereas like I think the reason Katherine finds it is like Katherine knows Damon. She knows how he thinks, and that is such a Damon thing to do.
Yes,
to like make a joke about like the moonstone looking like soap and then hiding it with soap.
And then actually doing that.
Which she didn't hear that joke, but she obviously like connected the dots. That's such a Damon thing.
I know. That's what I was thinking. I was like, I actually feel like Damon hiding this here says a lot about Damon.
Yes, it definitely does. It almost like speaks to him thinking he's smarter than other people too.
Yeah,
like, I'm gonna put it right out in the open.
No, it's like it's definitely like a very arrogant place to kind of hide it. Yeah. But also it's funny that he has a bar, like a bowl of soaps.
Decorative soaps.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just funny.
Yeah, I love it all around. It's great. But unfortunately now Katherine does have the moonstone, so
yeah. She just sort of like she just sort of like smiles to herself. Yeah, it's very like self-satisfied.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that will bring us to the next part. Obviously, she had to get the moonstone and the doppelganger. So next time we see her, we know what she's going for.
For sure.
Less clear is Isobel.
Yep.
Next, we see in the streets, Alaric is going to his car when Isobel shows up. And, you know, she says, like, I need to apologize. And he's like, I've made peace, like, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And she's like, well, because I compelled you to.
Yep.
But she says, no, I'm actually not here to apologize for the past. I'm here to apologize, like, for the future. Which is so ominous. Yeah. Although she does say, like, oh, and also for outing you to Jenna. Like, that was not nice. But she says, like, I'm here to apologize for the future, which is so ominous.
Yep.
And Alaric basically wants none of it. Like, I think he knows she's, like, playing mind games and stuff and, like, doesn't want to participate. So, you know, he, like, tries to leave. He tries to get in his car, but Isobel says, like, she's still speaking and she's like saying, like, you know, I loved you so much. And then she says, he's all yours. And this witch, warlock, whatever we're calling them now, appears.
Not calling him that.
Witch man. This witch man appears out from behind the car and he just like puts his hands around Alaric's head and like magically knocks him out.
Yep.
He falls to the ground. So it has begun. Like, this is like Klaus, this is the first indicator in the episode where it's like, oh, Isobel is not like saying what she's actually doing.
Yeah, she's definitely not working alone. I mean, this, like, if you're watching this for the first time, this is the first time we see this witch. I'm pretty sure this is the first time we've seen him, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we don't know he's like working with Klaus, but Isabel's very clearly like not working alone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of gives that indicator of even if she's not working alone, she's not being so honest about what she's doing.
Exactly.
Why would she just kidnap Alaric if
random.
she just hadn't found Klaus and was just there to protect Elena? Like, what would that do? So it's the first indicator that, like, there's some dishonesty happening here. Back at the witch house, Damon is still stuck outside and he's like, I don't know, he says something and then the witches like slam the door, like they close it on him, like, we don't want you here. So he's just like, you're on your own, and he leaves. He's like out of there.
Bonnie and Jeremy of course are still inside and Jeremy is asking Bonnie, I mean, he's in full boyfriend mode. He's asking Bonnie if she's sure about doing this spell because he's worried about her. And Bonnie, of course, just says she's sure. Mm-hmm. And Bonnie opens the grimoire and is, like, reading something. And they hear, like, voices.
Yeah, even
like, whispers.
Jeremy can hear, which I thought was kind of crazy.
Yeah, it definitely is. Because, of course, it seems like Bonnie should just be able to hear them. But I feel like it's a testament to, like, how much power is here.
Yeah, that even a non-magical
regular person can hear this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Jeremy can hear this whispering. And Bonnie clarifies for Jeremy. It's the spirits of the witches who died here. But she doesn't know just yet, like, what they're saying.
Yeah, she, like, opens her grimoire to try to, like, kind of piece it together. And she starts, I don't know if she's following the voices or what she's following.
Yeah, that's not very clear, but
she goes downstairs.
Yep, yeah.
And then, like, you know, Jeremy was following her, too. And she's, like, kind of finds, she says, the spot. Like, this is the spot. And she tells him to start setting up, like, the candles and getting things ready. And, like, again, even Jeremy, like, the witches are getting louder down there. Like, even Jeremy is, like,
scared.
Yeah, he's like, this isn't good. Like, whatever they're saying is not just, like, have good luck on your spell. Like,
good luck with the spell.
Yeah, like, this is not so good.
Did you like our Damon prank? LOL.
No, they're not friendly.
No.
And, you know, he's like saying it's not good, and then the witches like light all of the candles that he's placed on fire, and even there's like a wood burning fireplace down there, and that like lights up all full of fire. And Bonnie's like, they're ready.
Okay, Bonnie.
Great, thanks, Bonnie.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's definitely like a ominous start to this whole harnessing the witch power thing. It's definitely like, you know, we keep saying like the witch power, the magic keeps escalating, you know, like the Martins definitely did some of that, and now this is like even bigger than we've seen with the Martins. It just keeps getting like bigger and bigger and bigger. We'll see how that like turns out, and it's gonna there's gonna be a big this episode. There's a big reveal with that later. But for right now, we're still at the Lockwood Mansion. We see Elena is there. Carol is introducing Elena to accept the award for her mom's foundation. And Elena comes up to the front of the room. And then we cut to John, who is there. And he sees Isobel, who's also at this function. He's surprised to see her there.
And John asks, what are you doing? And Isobel says, creating a distraction. And then she...
Never good.
Yeah, never good. And then she bites John. And then we cut back to Elena accepting the check when Stefan hears the noise, which is...
he's in, like, the very back of the room by the door. Elena's obviously, like, deepest in the room giving her speech, talking, like, nice about her mom and whatever. Yeah, and then the huge crashing sound. So, obviously, like, everyone goes to see, but Stefan is, like, first on the scene because he's, like, right by the door.
Yeah.
And obviously they see it's John's body that stumbled down the stairs. Stefan obviously clocks the bite mark on his neck as well.
Yeah, of course.
But they're trying to keep anybody else from noticing that. In the room, you see Elena, again, like, deepest in the room. She's the furthest person from the door. She kind of starts to try to follow the crowd to see, like, what's going on. But before she can, Katherine appears. And she says, nice dress. Mind if I borrow it?
Yeah, and then is like, puts her hand over her mouth and, like, pulls
fully
Elena
snatches
away.
her away.
Yep. We cut back to, like, the whole John disaster. Stefan is looking at the body, of course, investigator / scientist.
Yeah, but he has to keep his cool because he's supposed to be high school Stefan right now.
Yeah, he's supposed to be a high school student, but he's on the scene. And Carol comes over and looks at John, and then Carol...
She quickly, I think, realizes, like, oh, that is a vampire
that's
bite.
Serious. Yeah, that's true. She realizes, I'm sure, that it's a vampire bite. And Carol is telling everyone to make way for Liz. So Liz comes through the crowd, and Liz then also sees the bite wound and, like, tells everyone to, like, back off and give John space. Like, everyone's fine.
Yeah.
What is Liz thinking? She's saying, like, everything's fine, kind of insinuating he's gonna be okay.
Yeah,
which he will. So it's fine.
But they didn't know that. It's weird to do that if they think he's actually dead.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, they're obviously just trying to not cause, like, a big stir, especially after the grill incident. I'm sure they're like, we got to keep things under wraps. Like, let's just secretly let John die. No one needs to know.
Yeah, that's true. He's like in and out of the town anyway.
Yeah, collateral damage, whatever. The son, what'd they call him in season 1? The town's favorite son or something?
Oh, yeah.
Just the death of the town's favorite son.
Yeah, who cares? Yeah, but anyway, Stefan, like, leaves this little John scene and goes back to the room that Elena was in, where Stefan approaches Elena, and Elena tells him that he's okay and that they should call Damon. And of course, like, we cut to Isobel, like, driving away with Elena in the back seat. Yeah. So we know that was actually Katherine.
Yeah, she did make the switch.
Yeah. And we go back outside to the Lockwood mansion where, like, Stefan and Katherine / Elena. I'll say Katherine because that's who it actually is.
Yeah.
And Stefan's about to realize, but they're walking.
Stefan, I think, already knows.
Stefan, I do think he clocked it pretty quick, and I think
because he was like, let's go. Like, he immediately was like, let's leave. Because she said she was on the phone with Damon, too, like, telling him about what happened. So it was like, it was just weird. I don't think Katherine played it that well.
No, definitely one of her worst Elena performances.
Which she didn't really need to get that far. So I'm sure she was like, I can make this work. I needed to do.
Yeah, she doesn't need to do too much.
Yeah.
So yeah, Stefan and Elena / Katherine are walking to Stefan's car, and I'm getting confused. Katherine is on the phone with Damon, and, you know, they're just talking. They're saying it must have been Isobel that did something, blah, blah, blah. Damon and Katherine hang up. Stefan has clocked it's Katherine, and he pins her up against the car and is like, where is she? And Katherine is just like, sorry, Stefan, but I needed you to not be able to follow me. And she, like, vervains him with, like, a vervain
she has, like,
syringe.
a syringe. Yeah.
And then she tosses his body into the woods.
Well,
like he's nothing.
Yeah, literally his body arcs into the air and into the, like, trees. Like, piece of, like, garbage. She was insane.
Yeah, she literally just, like, throws him into the woods.
That, like, French wine blood that she drank really juiced her up.
Yeah, he was really tasty and powerful.
Yes.
Yeah, so Stefan's off. He's, like, in the woods, whatever.
Then Bonnie and Jeremy are still harnessing, like, the witch magic or whatever in the house. It's not going well. Jeremy tries to stop her. The witches hold him back. She's screaming and crying.
Yep.
And then the witches finally release him. He goes up to her. She falls on the ground crying, and she says, I did it. And then she passes out in Jeremy's arms. It's such a dramatic, like, quick scene of you know, she harnessed the magic, but obviously it was, like, very extreme and painful to do.
Yeah.
So... moving right along, back to the luncheon. It's so funny. Carol is rushing everyone out of the house. And she's like, it's not too bad. Just a little fall. The paramedics are on their way. He'll be fine.
Again, he's dead.
They are just covering up everything. It's their first instinct. So she's like, he's fine. Damon comes in and asks, how is he? Liz says, he's dead. I laughed so hard. I was like, that was a great.
It's really funny.
Such an intentional little joke. But yeah, it speaks to your point too of like they know he's dead. Why are they like being like we got to cover this up?
Yeah.
It's just second nature at this point to cover up deaths, I think. Yeah. Also so dramatic of him to I guess they could have said he just fell down the stairs. I don't know. They haven't decided yet what they're going to do, obviously. But obviously Carol and Liz luck out. Although I thought it was funny that they didn't call Damon. Katherine called Damon. So I was like, did they even know what they were going to do next? They had this dead body and they were just going to cover it up themselves. They probably saw Damon show up and were like, thank God someone called this town's first real first responder. Like,
yeah,
the true
honestly.
first responder of Mystic Falls, Damon Salvatore.
Yeah, Damon is putting in the work.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's always on the scene. Yeah, they must think like he's got the police scanner or something.
Yeah, he's not even on the scanner yet. They're like, he always
he's
knows.
Good. Yeah.
He's got a sense for these things.
Yeah.
So, of course, Damon comes right in and inspects John's body. And he, of course, sees the Gilbert ring. And he's like, he's fine. Give him a couple hours.
Yeah.
And Carol and Liz are like, he's dead. Like, Damon has lost it. And, he explains how the ring works and all of that.
Yeah.
And he says, like, we're just going to need a cover story. Epileptic fit, alcohol binge, banana peel, whatever you guys want.
Which I love.
Yeah, it's so funny.
The banana peel, I think, is very funny.
Yeah, so, like, flippant of just John's dead body. And then he picks up John's dead body and just leaves.
Yeah,
he's like, I got this. You guys don't worry about it. Carol and Liz are probably like, thank God. Like, it's so weird, but also, like, I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah,
so.
they were like, we were grasping at straws here. We had no clue. Yeah, Damon came in,
knows all.
just ran the whole thing.
Yeah. So Liz is free to go now. So she goes out to her, police car out front, and she's saying, like, on the phone, like, oh, yeah, it was a false alarm at the Lockwoods. Like, nobody's dead here.
All good.
And she sees by her car, Matt is standing there waiting, and he says he wants to see Vicky's file. He wants to see how she covered up that it was a vampire that killed her. And Liz, like, has to end up pinning Matt to her car because he's, like, freaking out.
Yeah, Matt, like, grabs Liz at first and is, like, screaming at her not to lie to him. Yeah. So Liz, like, turns it around on him and, like, pins him up against the cop car. But
But yeah, there's still, like, plenty of these party goers outside. Half the historical society is in the lawn.
Is seeing Matt assault the sheriff?
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, so that's very dramatic, obviously.
Yeah.
Real change in the Matt plotline now that he's clearly going to reveal to Liz that he knows some vampire stuff.
Yeah.
How much? We'll see. We'll get back to
it. Not much. We'll leave that story there. We see Damon has successfully gotten John's body away. Yeah. He walks into the Salvatore house carrying John's body over his shoulder, and then he, like, dumps him on the floor.
Just immediately drops him. Like me when I come home with my bag at the end of a long day, just like
just get it off of me. Yeah. And Damon has blood on his hands and a little bit on his shirt, it looks like. So, like, he goes to the bathroom in his room to wash his hands, and he takes off his shirt. Just, I guess it has blood on it, but so extra. And other reasons. We see you, CW. And Damon's phone rings and he answers it. And we clearly know it's Stefan because Damon says, Stefan, how did I beat you and Elena home? Like, what? And, like, we don't know what Stefan is saying on the phone, but Damon starts, like, looking through the bowl of soap. Yeah. For the moonstone, of course, and realizes it's not there.
Yeah, chucks it across the room.
Yeah, he, like, throws it across the room and is clearly, like, pissed and, like, and still shirtless for some reason.
Yeah, he realizes immediately, like, Katherine got him.
Yeah, they got there. Yeah.
Speaking of, so Isobel is driving with Elena passed out in the back of the car, and she gets a call from Katherine saying, they need to hurry up before Damon finds them. He knows the lodging tricks. It'll be like 20 minutes before he finds that house. Yeah. Because she's at the foreclosure house.
The nicest foreclosure in town.
Yes, we know the lodging tricks too. And Elena is starting to wake up in the back of Isobel's car, kind of listening to this as Isobel says, I'm sorry, Katherine. I had to do what I was told. He wanted the moonstone and he wanted you. And Katherine says, he? Who he? She's all confused. And then we see the warlock from earlier comes into the house. Katherine tries to rush at him to attack him, all vamp face and everything. And of course he does the aneurysm as well and immediately, like, makes her pass out. And she's, like, screaming in pain. Like, it's definitely like, again, the witches are just constantly leveling up, and this guy is bigger than anything we've seen before. So Katherine has fully passed out. Team Klaus has him.
Team Klaus is winning. She's now with the winning team, but not in the way she wants to be.
No. Yeah, because I think the he, I mean, again, like you said, it's like clearly she's working with somebody else, but I feel like it's an ominous thing where it's like, oh, Klaus. Like, you're definitely starting to get a sense as a first-time viewer, where it's like, this is not looking too good.
Yeah, he's obviously got the upper hand.
Yeah. Then, speaking of the upper hand, some people playing some games.
Oh, my God.
At the Forbes house, Caroline is getting home, and she leaves a voice message to Matt saying that he needs to call her. Like, she's left him 25 voicemails and, like, you know, just call me. And then she sees inside Matt is standing there, already there, waiting for her. And Matt claims that Liz brought him there, that he was freaking out, and so he brought her there to calm down. That makes a lot of sense, bringing a random boy to your house rather than to the sheriff's station or whatever. But Matt claims, like, that he didn't tell Liz anything about Caroline, you know, that he just brought her there to calm, like I said, calm him down. And then she got called away for something and just left him there. Interesting. Suspicious. And Matt says that he needs to talk to Caroline. Like, he needs to know more about Vicky. And Caroline says, like, I'll tell you anything you want to know. ... We will get back to that later. Things are cooking there in a not good way.
Yeah. Also not in a great way, but good for right now. Bonnie and Jeremy are now leaving the witch house. They've, like Bonnie said, they did the spell. They're good to go. But Jeremy is very, like, hung up on the whispering that they all heard at the witch house.
He knows it must mean something.
It was very ominous, very spooky, not good. And Bonnie's like, it was just a warning. Don't even worry.
Yeah, it's just a lot of power, nothing big.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he asked her to explain, like, what kind of warning.
Yeah.
She says it was just a warning that it is a lot of power and be careful with it.
Yeah.
And Jeremy asks just how much power. And of course, Bonnie does her favorite little trick of, like, moving the leaves around. But this time it's, like, a little bit more intense than we've seen previously.
A little bit.
They made the shot, like, black and white because I guess, like, a storm is supposed to be brewing.
That's what I thought. She called in a whole storm because the whole coloring goes, like, grayish blue.
Yeah.
Yeah, the leaves are going even crazier than we saw, like, her and Luca do at the school. Like,
I think there's thunder.
I was going to say thunder.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely, like, a whole storm, not just some wind like we've seen before.
Yeah.
This is a whole storm Bonnie can call on.
Yep.
Because she's channeling the 100 dead witches.
Yep.
And she says a lot.
Yeah, she says,
a lot of power.
Yeah, I do have a lot of power.
If Caroline thought that candle trick was hot, wait till she gets a lot of this. Like, it's gonna blow her mind. She's doing a whole
storm now. Yeah. Anyway, Stefan and Damon are going to the nicest foreclosure in town, and they basically just are going there to look for Katherine or Elena or anyone.
Yeah.
And they see Isabel's luggage is in there.
Damon assumes it's
how they know it's Isabel's luggage is very unclear, but they realize it is the right place, but no one's there.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. So they just leave.
Yeah, they're getting very testy. They're like,
they're really trying to find Elena. They're worried for good reason.
Yeah.
But we see that, we see a car pull up to Grove Hill Cemetery, and it pulls into the cemetery a little way and then stops, where for some reason now the gay cowboy is the driver.
I was so confused about that. I was like, so Isabel drove somewhere, picked up the cowboy, got in the back with Elena. I don't know the dynamic here, but he drops Elena and Isabel off at the cemetery.
Yep.
So they get out of the car, and Elena correctly concludes that Klaus obviously knows where she is, because she concluded from the phone call, obviously, like she's being compelled.
Yeah.
She puts it together. Isabel is being compelled. Klaus knows where she is.
Yep.
And Isabel reveals, like, she goes up and wipes, leaves off of a tombstone, and it is her tombstone.
Yeah.
And she says that her parents, put that there when it became clear that she was not going to come back. And even though they didn't have a body, even though they didn't have any answers, they put a tombstone there for her to remember her.
Yeah.
And she's talking about this, like, at length about how, like,
they bring flowers every week.
Yeah. It's very sad. And, like, how, maybe the human part of her is buried there in a way, and because the girl that they knew is dead. And yeah, it's just really tragic. And I feel like it's such an interesting thing to be saying to Elena, because obviously this kind of stuff is so Elena coded. This appeals to Elena so much.
For sure.
And so, Elena got to meet the other part of Isabel, is what Isabel says, of, like, the human part of me is dead. Unfortunately, you met the other part, the not so human part.
Yeah.
And that's the part that betrayed her own flesh and blood.
Yeah.
Meaning, of course, if you hadn't already put it together, she has betrayed Elena in this act of with Klaus, bringing him basically to Elena. And, the witch man calls Isabel, and he says, Klaus has everything he needs for now. Your part is finished. You did what he compelled you to do. And he tells Isobel to let Elena go, like let the doppelganger just be free. And Isobel kind of like repeats, I'm done. And he says, you're done. Ooh, not looking too good. And Isobel pretty much immediately, as soon as she gets off the phone, pulls off her daylight necklace and just starts burning in the sunlight. Yep. She's obviously screaming. She literally bursts into flames. She's like standing on top of her grave. And so her body, her ashes fall to the ground in front of her grave. And Elena's just standing there shocked.
In shock. Yeah, of course.
Like just traumatized. Like this part had me tearing up watching it. I was like, it's just so tragic. And like, I don't know if I'm even really that sad for Isobel. Like, no. I don't really feel that much for her. But for Elena to have to watch her birth mother, who she's like barely connected with, die in front of her, especially after having to watch her like actual mother and father die right in front of her. Like, it's so tragic. Like, having to increase your dead parental count to 3. I was like, that's not.
Yeah. No, it's terrible. And Isobel also, before she rips off her necklace, she says, sorry, I was such a disappointment to you.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just so sad. And also, I feel like it's so obvious. I don't want to get too much into the humanity discussion, but it feels pretty obvious to me. Like, Isobel has some degree of regret.
Yes.
Like, there is at least a speck of her emotions that are on, and she has a lot of regret about everything that went down with Elena. And I feel like... Yeah, it's not that I'm really sad for Isobel, but I'm just so sad that Elena missed out on what could have been, you know, like a good parental figure. I don't know. I mean... Yeah,
it's... Isabel's such an interesting character, and like you said, like, we're not going to get too much into the humanity discussion right now because that is just opening a door that we cannot.
Yeah, this will be a 10-hour long episode.
Definitely go back and watch the Isobel episode from season 1 if you haven't. We talked at length about Isobel in that one.
Probably too long, yeah.
Yeah, and we do want to do another episode at some point talking about humanity, and she's a huge factor in that. But yeah, I think like you said, she has some emotions towards Elena. They're so hard to read, and especially in this episode where she's being compelled the whole time, it's so hard to tell how much or how little she might care about Elena and where her motivations are. But yeah, I do read it as like that there is some human feeling connection to Elena.
I think so, yeah.
And that, like, probably given more time and circumstances being different, her emotions probably would have been fully on had she had a chance to really connect with Elena. But of course that's like not what happens, and it's such a cruel irony in the scene too, like the way that she has to go out, like knowing that this was Isobel's move. This is what she did in her season 1 episode where she compelled the man to like deliver the message to Elena and then kill himself in front of her. I was like, it kind of feels like she might have told Klaus that this is a thing she does, and that Klaus did this on purpose and was like, kill yourself in front of Elena to show her how serious I am. Like, that feels so Klaus to hear that Isobel does that and be like, oh, yeah, I'm gonna take that, let's do that.
Yeah, no, that's definitely possible. I didn't even think about that parallel, but yeah, that's so interesting.
Yeah, it really feels like a Klaus thing to do, to be like, oh, you like have your messengers kill themselves in front of her to send her a message, let's do that.
Why not?
Oh,
I like
perfect.
That. Yeah.
But yes, there's just so much to be said about Isobel. We literally could talk at length about it, and I don't even really know. It's so hard just within this episode singularly to like make any of that concrete, because I don't know how I feel. I feel like there's so many different sides to stand in on all of this. So I have no like elegant way to sum it up, because there's no one way I think to feel about this whole situation.
Yeah, no. I mean, you could pretty much come to any conclusion and still have like if a reason to justify it. Like, I have no idea how I feel about Isobel. Like, how much she was compelled to do. Like, was she compelled to, like, I don't even know, like, did that somehow get her to have her humanity more on?
Yeah.
It does feel a little bit more on in this episode. It does feel more
on in this episode.
It's just not really clear. Like, we'll never really know, but maybe fun to talk about. So we'll do a little special episode where maybe we get into it. But.
Yeah, even though this is Isobel's last, she'll definitely come around for us in some capacity to talk about it again.
Yeah.
She's just too interesting not to.
Yeah, there's so much going on with Isobel.
Less interesting. Moving along.
Yeah.
At the Forbes house, Caroline is giving Matt the whole breakdown about everything that's happened. She's talking about how, like, you know, she almost killed Matt, like, in the woods that one time, but, like, she compelled him to forget about it, which I feel like this is not helping with Matt being traumatized. But
I know.
That's what she decides to tell him.
Yeah.
And she said she can't tell him more about Vicky. Like, obviously, Caroline wasn't even a vampire then. She doesn't know any of that other than what probably Stefan and Elena have told her. And the first thing Matt says to, like, all of this spiel that we see Caroline, just probably the tail end of it, I'm sure she gave him a lot more. He just says, I'm all alone, which is so sad, but I also kind of laughed. I was like, Matt, that's the first... Chill. But also, you are. I'm sorry.
He's right. Yeah, he does, like... Caroline tries to say, like, no, you're not. And then he goes on to say, like, my mom is absent. She doesn't care about me. Like, my sister's dead. All of my friends are liars. And now you're, like, you, basically.
Yeah.
Which, all of his friends, Tyler. Like, come on.
And as a werewolf, it's not like it's something that, like, was... It's just the way he was, like, born. I don't know. I was like, I get it. You're right. But also, I don't know. It felt very teenage boy. Of
definitely.
Teenagers center themselves in every story. And that's definitely what he's doing here. So I was like, I'm sympathetic, but I'm not. And obviously part of it is we know what is actually going on, so we don't want to feel sympathetic towards him because, of course, Matt begs Caroline to make him forget. He says he doesn't want to know any of this. She tries to convince him, like, maybe just a little bit of time, you'll get used to it. And he, like, insists, like, no, like, compel
he's,
me.
like, screaming at her. Yeah,
he does start screaming at her. And she agrees, and she's, like, crying.
She's fully crying.
Through tears, she has to compel him to forget about this. And I also think part of my, like, feelings towards this is it's, like, too much to have this storyline in, like, the same exact episode as the Jenna storyline about the lies and stuff.
I know.
Like, do we really have to have both of these things happening at the same exact time? It kind of cuts some of their effectiveness to have...
Agreed. Yeah, no. No, I know. I'm like, I feel like the focus should have been just, like, Jenna's plot and maybe... Matt could have found out at a different time or just had, like, a better reaction, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, because
something to be different.
Yes, because Jenna's feels more justified in that, like, she's directly was getting lied to about Isobel being dead. Matt is just like...
Matt, I'm kind of like, get over it. I don't know. Like,
yeah, it's like, nobody lied to you. They're just withholding secrets, which I know withholding is lying. But, like, I don't know. He needed something. If it happened closer to Vicky, I would be more sympathetic because obviously the Vicky thing is so sympathetic for him.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. I was like, I feel like they actually needed something, like, bigger to happen.
Yeah.
Because right now it's like, he's just, like, dating Caroline. Nothing happened. She didn't do anything to him. Not recently.
Yeah, it's almost like they needed a Vicky call back before they brought this up.
Yeah.
I don't know. They didn't do it. Whatever.
Yeah.
So we're not sympathetic to Matt.
Yeah, no, I am not really anymore. But
speaking of sympathy, the perfect segue, actually. At the Salvatore house, Elena is sitting by the fire at a chair holding Isobel's necklace. She's holding the daylight necklace. And she tells Stefan, I never thought I would feel bad about her being dead, and yet. And Stefan finishes the sentence for her, like, she was your mother. And it's nice that Elena gets this kind of memento, this necklace, especially after she just got the, like, bracelet or the necklace or whatever from John of her.
Oh, of Miranda's.
Her mother. Just sweet, but also so sad.
I know.
Again, seeing Elena have to go through the grief of losing another parent, it's just tragic.
It's too much, yeah.
But, you know, they go on to kind of get back to business and say, like, they have to assume now anything that John knows, like, Isobel knew, meaning Klaus now knows. Mm-hmm. And, you know, obviously he's coming. And, you know, they know, Klaus knows, obviously, too. The bodyguards, Stefan and Damon are there. He knows that Elena isn't going to run, which is something that, like, when she says, Stefan kind of looks very worried about. That's definitely, like, a big thing to realize is, like, oh, Klaus left you here because he knows you're just going to sit here for the waiting for him to take.
Yeah, they go through the list. They're like, she's not going to pull a Katherine. She's not going to run. She has Damon and Stefan to protect her. Like, this isn't great.
Yeah,
but
it's not looking good. Yeah, because if she was going to pull a Katherine at this point, she would have already done it. Let's be real.
For sure, yeah. Yeah, right as they're kind of realizing Klaus knows everything. Like, they're not really in a great position.
Yeah.
Damon comes in and says, this is why we need to take some precautions. And he hands Elena a bunch of papers and Stefan tells Elena that this is the deed to their house. Isobel had the right idea with a safe house, so they're gonna basically just give Elena their house.
Yeah.
Which, it's smart, yeah. And then as they're doing this, John finally comes back to life. I literally forgot he was even around.
Yeah.
He like shoots up and Damon rushes to him and picks him up like by the collar of his shirt and is like, obviously upset with him. And John is like, I didn't know what Isobel was gonna do. I'm sorry. And then he looks to Elena and says, I'm so sorry. And Elena tells Damon, let John go. we need to talk. Obviously, they have a lot to talk about. But
he doesn't even know Isabel's dead. He was
that's true. Oh my God, that's kind of sad.
Yeah, having to break that news to him is probably really upsetting.
Yeah,
not good.
Not great. But anyway,
speaking of breaking news,
good.
At the Gilbert house, Jeremy has found out that using too much power will kill Bonnie.
Yeah.
So she reveals that, like, in order to kill the originals, like, or Klaus, they don't know about the rest of them yet, she's going to have to use all of the power, all of the witch power, which will kill her. And Jeremy says, like, you know, he won't let her do that. And Bonnie says, like, she was born with these powers, like, for a reason. Like, it wasn't just to float feathers and light candles, which I thought was funny.
I liked that, yeah.
It's for a purpose, and, like, she feels like it's, like, she's the one that has to do that. And Jeremy says, like, Elena won't let you do this. And Bonnie says, like, don't tell her.
Yeah.
But Jeremy. She also says, like, it's not just for Elena. It is for you. It is for everybody. Like, I mean, let's be real. Klaus is threatening the entire town of Mystic Falls at this point.
Yep.
So she's right in that. And Bonnie feels like that she is the only one that can put an end to this. She's the only one that can stop Klaus. And so it should be her decision whether she wants to give up her life for that or not. And she, like, gets up and just walks away, leaving Jeremy there. And he, like, punches the paper or whatever.
Yeah, he's very not happy.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. But anyway, we see it's nighttime. We see someone walking toward a car. We see the person, and this is actually one of the shots I was thinking of earlier when we talked about the director. We see the person get in the car, and they're, like, silhouetted. There are two people. And then we see it's Matt and Liz, and Matt has gotten in Sheriff Forbes' cop car. And Matt is telling Liz that he did it. Like, he drank the vervain and then went over to Caroline's house, Liz's house, and got Caroline to tell Matt everything.
Yep.
And then I asked her to take it all away.
Yep. Snake.
Snake. Both of them. Imagine your mother doing this
in cahoots with your boyfriend.
Yeah, terrible. But anyway, Liz thanks Matt and says, you know.
She's crying.
Yeah, she is crying. It's very sad. It's very sad. And she says, I know this isn't easy, but I want you to tell me everything that Caroline told you. And Matt, like, doesn't really say anything about that, but he's clearly very upset too. And he just says, I feel like she died. And Liz is crying at this point. She's fully crying. And she says, she did. Sad.
So sad. I mean,
very
she
sad.
Did die.
Yeah, it almost makes me forgive that they're about to honeypot Caroline.
That's what I wrote. I was like, let the honeypotting commence.
This we'll talk so much more about this in the next episode, because that's when it really is a thing.
Huge plot in the next one. So these two are fully doing their thing.
They're messing with Caroline.
Yeah, hate that for them.
Yeah.
Hate / sort of love. I don't know how I feel about this next scene at the Salvatore house. John and Elena have sat down to talk. She must have revealed that Isabel is dead. And John is saying, like, he trusted Isabel because, like, he saw how heartbroken Isabel was when she had to give up baby Elena. And, like, you know, Isabel was the first girl that he loved. And so, like, he wanted to believe her. It's nice that he's that, like, aware of his own feelings and is able to express this to Elena. But I was like, I don't know. I feel like for Elena, it probably does do a lot. Elena is so emotional. She's so intuitive. This kind of stuff, like, speaks so directly to her, I think. But John says, like, you know, I think he realizes how bad he messed up, and he says he'll do whatever Elena wants at this point, even if that means just leaving. And, like, he clearly knows that he has, like, messed up. He's put his faith in the wrong people, and, like, you know, he's giving a whole kind of spiel about that. And so he gets up to leave, and Elena kind of stops him by saying, like, John, you screw up everything.
I know. I was like, I mean, it turns out okay, but I was like, that's a little harsh, Elena.
Yeah, she comes in hot.
Yeah, but she tells John, you screw up everything. Like, everything you touch falls apart. Like, okay. But you're the only parent I have left.
Yeah. Maybe
I can learn not to hate you. So, you know, she's not really warming up to John, but she's willing to give it a shot. And like, even though the approach was a little harsh, we see John, like, is kind of like, okay, and he smiles a little bit.
This is exactly what he wanted to hear. It's like, you can learn to not hate me, not even love me, but just not hate me.
Yeah, that's the most John could ask for, honestly.
It is.
So they've reached that common ground. They'll try to, like, Elena will try to not hate him. But we see in the library, Damon and Stefan are at the house too, and Damon is telling Stefan that Bonnie's spell worked, and, you know, she's ready to go, and Stefan realizes Katherine was gone before she could learn. Like, Bonnie even got her powers back and now got all this new power. And they're saying Isobel didn't know about any of this either. So Bonnie is actually their secret weapon.
Love that.
And they like have a little moment where they raise their glasses of, I'm assuming, bourbon.
Yeah, classic.
And they like clink them together and then have a little drink. It's really cute. Yeah.
Bonnie's all powered up, juiced up, and nobody knows.
Yeah.
We'll see the effects of that in the next episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great. It's a nice win for Team Salvatore after like an episode of losses for the most part.
Yeah. They took a lot of L's to get this one dub.
Yeah, they did. Speaking of L's, the biggest L of all.
Woof. Yeah.
At Alaric's apartment, finally, this man has a home and he doesn't even get to be in his own body to enjoy it.
True.
We see Katherine passed out on the floor, and we hear the witch man from earlier is saying a spell, and you look over and you kind of see like magical like blood transfusion going on, a man in a chair with these like, I don't know, vials of stuff, and very witchy looking. And Katherine notices that Elena's necklace is gone. She was wearing it obviously when they switched places, and rewatchers, we know this is so important. That is the last time we see this necklace until season 3. It is gone after this. So yeah, important. I love keeping track of the necklace, and I think it's, like I've said in season 1, I haven't gotten to talk about the symbolism of the necklace in a while. So interesting that the necklace goes missing the second that Klaus shows up. That's just like chef's kiss. I'm like, love that. It says a lot.
It's setting up a lot.
It is setting up a lot. But anyway, so Katherine notices what's going on. I think the necklace being missing is a big indicator to her, because of course, like, who else would just take off of her vein necklace off of her? Like, why would that matter to anybody else except a person that can compel a vampire? So she's like kind of getting up, and it is revealed to us, the audience, that the man sitting in the chair is Alaric, and that like this is his apartment. And like, I was like, have we seen this apartment before? I think this is the first time.
I'm pretty sure it is the first time we've seen Alaric's apartment. Yeah.
But I love this apartment. It's like full of like books and like,
it's very iconic to me, like because of all of this, that I'm like, maybe we haven't seen it before, or we have seen it before, but
no,
I think
this is the first time. So it's interesting. But anyway, so we see this like Alaric, not Alaric, wake up, and it's pretty immediately clear, obviously, it is not Alaric. Like, the immediate facial expression is very not Alaric. And the witch bows to him, which is also like, okay, not Alaric.
Love.
And he walks towards Katherine, who immediately like rushes at the door and hits, the invisible barricade, the classic. She is spelled inside. And Alaric, quote unquote, goes up to Katherine and he like holds her face. He puts his hands right on her face and he says hello to her in Bulgarian, which is also like, Alaric wouldn't know to do that.
Yeah, no.
And then he says in English, I've missed you. And Katherine clears up any confusion we might have had about who this is and says, Klaus. Ooh, Klaus is in Alaric's body. This was the wildest plot twist the first time through.
Yeah, no, that was wild to me. I mean, even still, as soon as I see this scene, like I see Katherine wake up on the floor of this apartment, I'm like, let's go. Things are about to get good.
I know. We've talked about this already, I didn't love so much of the mid-season 2 plot of the werewolves and that kind of stuff. Even like the Martins, I'm like, but as soon as this plot, like this episode is so good, and as soon as like the actual Klaus plot kicks into gear, it's like next level prime television. This is amazing. And I'm really excited in the next one to talk about the Alaric rendition of Klaus. I don't have much to say about it this time. Obviously, we only get this one scene, so I'll save it all for the next one. But like, so much to be said about the way that Matt Davis plays Klaus versus like Joseph Klaus. So I'm excited to get into that in the next one. But that's pretty much where we're going to leave it for this episode, is the reveal. Klaus is in Alaric's body. He's in town. And he's got Katherine. If that matters to anybody other than Katherine.
No. Yeah, they all just kind of like give up on Katherine a little bit. But But that's finishing up this episode. We'll get into our little like final, or our little outro.
Yeah.
For deaths for this episode, we obviously have Isobel, who I think it's safe to say was killed by Klaus.
Yeah.
I feel like we can count that for Klaus.
Self-killed via Klaus. Yes.
Yeah. And then we also have John, who was killed but brought back to life by the ring, and he was of course killed by Isobel. And I think this is his second death.
Yeah. The first one is Damon. Second one is Isobel, and then I don't think there are any others in there. So
no. Yeah.
Those are our deaths for this one. Not such a big body count when you consider the characters in this episode.
No, that's true. Usually when, like, the last time Isobel blew into town, she killed like 10 people.
Yeah. But for our out of pocket things we would have done differently, I felt like this one was pretty short for me because like this is such a good episode. From a writer's perspective,
it's a very good episode.
I would say nothing I would do differently for a writer.
The writing was perfect.
From a character, it's always going to be John for me. It's always John.
Okay, fair.
Inviting Isobel into the house, like, what is he taught? Like, why did he do that?
That was ridiculous.
So ridiculous. And then also I did want to say, Katherine as well. Girl, resolve your trust issues. If you just stayed on Team Salvatore, things would have been fine for you. So
that's true. Yeah, no, she really should have.
Would have done differently. Katherine was having to like betray and backstab everyone at every turn. I was like, girl.
Yeah,
no. Therapy.
True. Yeah, no. Those are pretty good. The only thing I actually said was I said Matt like attacking Liz.
Yes.
And then honestly their whole plot, so maybe I should save it for like next episode where their plot really goes off the rails.
That's
so true. I think I'll table mine, like, and I'll say either one of yours. I agree with both of yours. So
yeah,
could go either way.
I'm inclined to go with Katherine just because the detriment that she provides herself.
She did play herself.
Yeah, she really played herself. Katherine is so smart and so good, and yet she's her own worst enemy.
She is her own worst enemy. Yeah. No, it's true.
So
I'm good with Katherine.
Differently, Katherine. Don't be such a little backstabbing snake, Katherine.
Yeah.
We're addressing to you specifically.
Yeah. Yeah, so true. For quotes for this episode, there were like a few quotes. None of them that I'm like, I feel really passionately about, but there were a lot that I really liked. At first, I really liked that quote that Damon says before I realized Katherine was a nasty little bitch.
I love that one. Yeah.
It's just so funny. He even gets Jeremy to laugh. It's just really good. I also love, it sticks out in my mind so vividly for some reason. I love when Katherine is going to kidnap Elena and she says, "Nice dress. Mind if I borrow it?"
Ooh,
like, I just feel like I hear it in her voice when I like say it now. I'm like, I have such a strong memory of that scene. But I feel like the one I would probably go with if I was going to pick one of my own is when Alaric says hello, Katerina. He says hello in Bulgarian.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like just that, like when Klaus / Alaric says it, I'm like, we're on the come up. Like, this is where it all begins.
That's a really good one. I didn't think of that. So I'm inclined to go for that, but I will give my two quotes I wanted to shout out. Which was first Damon. Well, both are Damon. They're always Damon.
They're always Damon, yeah.
But the first one was to Katherine when he says, "Don't mistake the fact that we haven't set you on fire in your sleep for trust." I was like, that's iconic.
That's pretty good. No, that's pretty true.
Someone.
That's
and
good.
the other was to Bonnie when he says, "Great, we'll have to put that on the list of things to do today. Harness dead witch power."
That's pretty good.
But I think you're right. I think it's hello, Katherine in Bulgarian. I think that's such like a game changer. It's just too iconic not to call out.
Yeah, I'm good with that one. I like that.
Perfect.
Yeah, perfect. Alaric / Klaus wins this category.
Yeah, Klaus barely here, and he's like, first thing he says, best quote.
First words out of his mouth. I love it. It's perfect.
I'm on board.
Yeah.
Then we've got a really easy winner for song of the episode, the best song in the episode. We only had one song played in the entire episode, so it is automatically the winner. It was Give Me Strength by Snow Patrol, which plays when Elena and John are talking about Isobel and kind of at the tail end of Bonnie Jeremy as well. Yeah,
that classic like kind of end song.
Yeah, emotional song before the real bad emotional stuff or like scene.
Yeah.
But yes, I liked it. Snow Patrol feels like this era. It felt like this
definitely.
Time. It feels like Vampire Diaries. So no complaints over it being the one song and automatic winner.
Yeah. No, I'm good with that.
Awesome. So we'll be adding Give Me Strength by Snow Patrol to our best song of the episode playlist where we have all of the winners of best song. You can find that linked in our bios, descriptions, as well as our TikTok and our Instagram. We're always posting fun clips, videos, all sorts of stuff. We're always trying to start a discussion on Vampire Diaries. So if you have any thoughts, feel free to share them there or in the comments of this video.
Or you can watch the podcast on YouTube. I usually say it in reverse order. That was wild. You can watch it on YouTube if you want, or you can listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Thought I'd mix it up a little bit for you all there so you don't get sick of listening to the outro.
Yeah, this is a long episode.
Yeah.
We're getting lost.
I was going to say, it's not just that I'm getting confused myself, but so join us next week. This I am not confused about for an amazing episode, probably easily in my top 5.
Yeah, one of the best.
Yeah, The Last Dance, season 2, episode 18.
Decade dance. I'm so excited.
Klaus and Alaric's body.
Yeah.
Bonnie has like all this power.
Oh, I love
the honeypot situation.
Don't love.
Just everything. Yeah.
It's one of the best. So I hope we see you next week.
Yes.
Thanks for watching and or listening to this one.
Bye.